If the purpose of the tribunal is not to ascertain specific diagnosis, but to determine the circumstances in which a person should continue to be detained, and the word hostage taking was used as part, incorporated into as part of why whether or not it should be detained. If the purpose of the tribunal is not to ascertain specific diagnosis, but to determine the circumstances in which a person should continue to be detained, and the word hostage taking was used as part, incorporated into as part of why whether or not it should be detained. Well, I think finding evidence of that, and that being a false accusation, would mean that part of what they used to decide whether or not I could be detained had little basis to it. And I think the response to this complaint, this written response, contains evidence that that accusation was made, because you put it down in writing earlier. Okay, the last bit, this is embarrassing. Here goes. From the text about taking people hostage or whatever. Were such information to have been presented to the tribunal, it is possible that it may have influenced the decision to further detain you. As above mentioned, Dr. Jolly could find no evidence that it was presented. Well, here in the answer to a terrible issue 1.2, it's on about on the 24th of February 2012, you have been presented as very paranoid and anxious, and blocked the ward door, stopping Dr. Armayous, Armayous, from going out. Now, at the tribunal, when I asked them about hostage taking, they said, well, for example, you took Dr. Aramus hostage. That's what they said when I stopped him at the door. They said that was an act of hostage taking. That was an example. They used that in the tribunal as an act of hostage taking, and said that, and other accusations I knew about hostage taking, was a reason, was to be incorporated in a reason for the tribunal to keep me detained. Now, Dr. Jolly could find no evidence. The problem is the same things at the tribunal, and what's in the written report is separate. But I'll put this to you. When I was there, I met another patient called John Ryan, and I met him years earlier. And you'd leave and he'd say, what did they diagnose you as? And I'd say schizophrenia, and he'd say, yeah, me too. So that's what seems, I asked why everybody seems to be diagnosed as schizophrenia. This time I met John Ryan after leaving the tribunal, and it was almost deja vu. What are they saying about you now? And I says, oh, they're going around saying I'm a hostage taker. And he says, well, it's funny you should say that, as if he knew something. I'd like to know if the patient John Ryan was ever accused of being a hostage taker, or when he said that, did he know something about it? Is there some type of trend of going around saying people are taking people hostage when we're not taking people hostage? Because that accusation was used once before on me, where someone made a crank phone call, and I want to know if crank phone calls. Okay, I'm now going to take a break. I got a lot there done in an hour or something. And I'm going to come back and do the final two, which is 11 and 12. And I can see now why Dr. Phelan, when he looked at all this dribble, which is what it is, I can't believe you put an assessment, you got a team of consultants to put together this report. And I can see now why he had a lack of input into supporting any mention of me having schizophrenia, considering that he himself. Okay, the next one has nothing to do with any of the issues. Each time an answer is given to one of the points or one of the issues, to show that you've done it, and that the person who's answered has answered it with the right credentials. I'm assuming that Dr. Jolly is the one whose expertise are involved here. But the way it's written, etc., and the lack of rhythm or whatever that's in it, I'm curious that all the text that's put here, is it all Dr. Jolly? And if it's not, anyone else involved in putting in the text, could they be referenced? In other words, all that's written in this report, it's either all Dr. Jolly, in which case there is no referencing, it's Dr. Jolly, but if there's anyone else involved in the text, could you reference who it is? Just so we know the area of expertise that is brought to answering each bit of each complaint, that the right person with the right expertise is there to answer it.